Imagine you're stepping outside into the biting cold of a sub-zero Alaskan morning.
Oh, yeah, that sharp cold that just hits your lungs,
Right, exactly. Like maybe you're about to feed a team of sled dogs, or, you're just heading out for a long freezing hike in the pitch dark before the sun even comes up.
which is most of the winter up here.
Yeah. And as you step off the porch, your breath just instantly fogs in that heavy air. You start moving, and slowly your muscles warm up against the chill, but then your stomach rumbles.
Oh, the worst timing.
It's that deep, hollow feeling you suddenly realize you are just fiercely hungry.
Yeah, and it's a it's a specific, really aggressive kind of cold weather hunger.
Like your body is panicking a little.
Exactly, yeah. Your body's essentially throwing warning lights on the dashboard,
Mm.
demanding fuel right now. Living and working in environments like this, it forces us to confront this fundamental biological mystery. Like, how exactly does the human body keep moving, keep thinking, and, well, generate enough internal heat to stave off freezing in such an extreme environment?
So today, we're operating out of what we call the Bioforge.
Yeah, the
It's
Bioforce.
basically our Alaskan field station approach to biology. So we take the science out of the textbook and we apply it to, the mud, the ice, the actual living world around us.
Right, making it real.
Exactly. We're pulling insights from the Bioforge curriculum and Amplify Science to essentially track a single bite of food all the way down to the microscopic level.
Which is a wild journey, honestly.
It really is. And our overarching mission for you today is to equip you with a very specific understanding. By the time we finish this deep dive, we want you to walk away with, well, sort of a biological superpower.
Like that a superpower.
Right. Being able to look at the world and confidently say, I can explain exactly how food molecules are broken down and rearranged to support growth and release energy.
It's a great goal.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, we have to completely shift our perspective of what a meal actually is.
Okay, how so?
Well, say you come back inside from that freezing hike, right? And you eat a piece of locally caught fish and maybe a thick slice of bread. On a macro level, it's just dinner.
Yeah, you're just refueling.
Right. But on a molecular level, food is not some, generic magical substance. It is this vast, tangled architecture of molecules. And what's crucial for you to understand is the sheer scale of these structures.
Okay, let's follow the bread first. We're talking about carbohydrates. What is?
Specifically complex carbohydrates,
Hmm.
known as starch. And starch isn't just a small thing. It is a massive, sprawling molecule made of literally thousands of individual sugar subunits.
Glucose.
Exactly, glucose.
Yeah.
And are all linked together in these long branching chains. Those subunits are held together by really strong chemical bonds.
Wow, okay. And what about the piece of fish?
So the fish provides protein, which is another massive, really complex molecule. But instead of sugars, proteins are made of long chains of amino acids.
Amino acids, got it.
Yeah. But now your body immediately faces this huge logistical nightmare. Because those massive starch and protein molecules, they're simply too large to be used by your cells as they are.
Just physically too big.
Exactly. If a molecule were a boulder, your cell membrane is like a chain link fence. The boulder's just not getting through.
So we have a scale problem. It's kind of like trying to heat a tiny little trapper's cabin with a massive, newly felled 80-foot spruce tree.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy, yes.
Like you can't just shove the whole tree through the front door and into the wood stove.
Yeah.
You have to physically chop that timber down into perfectly sized firewood before it can actually be delivered and utilized by the individual cabins.
That is exactly it. And that physical and chemical chopping down, that is the entire purpose of your digestive system.
Okay.
It doesn't just crush the food up. It deploys specialized molecules called enzymes. Yeah, think of enzymes as like microscopic biological scissors. They are perfectly shaped to snap the chemical bonds holding those long chains together. So digestive enzymes will snip the massive starch molecules down into single isolated glucose molecules.
Oh, making the firewood.
Right. And at the exact same time, different enzymes are snipping the complex fish proteins into individual amino acid molecules.
Oh.
Only then do you finally have your perfectly sized firewood.
But, chopping the wood is completely useless if it just sits out in the yard.
All right.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good out there.
The cabins, which are, the billions of individual cells making up your muscles and organs, they still need those smaller molecules delivered directly to them.
Which requires a massive coordinated effort between three completely different body systems.
Okay, so digestion is one.
Right. While your digestive system is isolating the glucose and the amino acids, Your respiratory system is pulling in air, isolating oxygen molecules.
Okay, and oxygen molecules are already small.
Very small. Naturally, just two oxygen atoms bonded together, so they don't even require the enzyme scissors to be broken down.
So they just pass right into the bloodstream.
They do. Deep in your lungs, you have these tiny blood vessels wrapping around the air sacs, and oxygen just diffuses right into your blood. And from there, your circulatory system takes over as the ultimate transport network.
Like a highway system.
Exactly like a highway. The blood flows past the intestines, picks up the newly freed glucose and amino acids, and pumps them, along with all that oxygen, through thousands of miles of blood vessels, literally delivering them to the doorstep of every single cell in your body.
Okay, let's pause right here, because the glucose and the oxygen have arrived at the cell. And this is where I want to push back on a concept that always seems incredibly confusing.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, it's mostly because of how we talk about food in everyday life, right? Like, if I eat a giant candy bar or drink a huge sugary soda, I get a massive, undeniable sugar rush.
Oh, absolutely. We all feel that.
Right. I feel the energy just coursing through me. I mean, I might even crash an hour later, but the feeling is real. So when our science guides tell us to explicitly avoid saying things like food is energy, how does that make any sense? If I physically feel the energy spike, how can you tell me the food isn't the energy?
Yeah, that is honestly the most common hurdle in understanding biology.
Yeah.
It's so intuitive to think that way.
Right, because you feel it.
You feel a rush, so your brain just naturally assumes the sugar contains the energy, like juice inside a grape just waiting to be squeezed out.
Exactly.
But energy is not a physical substance. You cannot hold a cup of energy.
Okay.
Food is matter. It has mass. It takes up space. To understand where the energy actually comes from, you have to think of a glow stick.
A glow stick,
Right,
like the plastic tubes you snap at a concert.
Yes, exactly those. When you hold an unbroken glow stick, is there light inside of it?
No, it's just fluid.
Right. They're just chemicals. The light, which is the energy, only appears when you bend the plastic, break the inner vial, and allow those chemicals to mix and react. The energy is released by the reaction.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or think of a tightly coiled mechanical spring. The metal spring itself isn't energy, but the tension holding it together has incredible potential.
So the glucose molecule is the loaded spring.
Precisely. The chemical bonds holding the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms together in a single glucose molecule are under immense tension. When the circulatory system delivers both glucose and oxygen to a cell, they enter this specialized structure called the mitochondria.
The powerhouse, as they say.
Right, the classic powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah.
You can picture the mitochondria as this engine room with highly soldered inner membranes. And once inside the glucose and oxygen, they don't just sit there. They undergo a multi-step chemical reaction known as cellular respiration.
So the atoms are actually, what, changing how they are connected. The spring is released.
Yes. The chemical bonds of the glucose and oxygen molecules are forcibly broken apart. The atoms are completely rearranged to form entirely new molecules. Carbon dioxide and water.
Carbon dioxide and water, just from sugar and oxygen.
Exactly. And here is the critical part. The actual mechanism of snapping those original bonds and forming the new ones, that is what releases energy into the cell.
Okay, so the energy I feel from eating that candy bar isn't a substance flooding my body.
No, it isn't.
It's the sudden, simultaneous release of energy from literally billions of microscopic chemical bonds snapping and rearranging inside my mitochondria.
That is the reality of cellular respiration.
Yeah.
And that released energy is what physically powers everything you do. It powers the contraction of your muscles so you can run, the firing of neurons so your brain can think, and, yeah, the generation of heat to keep your core temperature stable on a freezing Alaskan day.
Man, that completely changes how I view the simple act of breathing. Like when I step out onto that freezing porch and see my breath fog in the morning air. I'm not just exhaling hot air. I am looking at the physical exhaust of cellular respiration.
You literally are. You are looking at the water vapor and carbon dioxide that your cells just manufactured by rearranging the atoms from your last meal.
That is wild.
It really is. The carbon dioxide is just a waste product of the reaction. It diffuses back into your blood, travels to your lungs, and you just breathe it out. Every foggy breath is visual proof that matter is constantly flowing into and out of your biological system while the energy left behind keeps you alive.
Okay, let's follow the timeline forward here. So glucose and oxygen react, they rearrange into carbon dioxide and water, and the snapping of those bonds releases the energy we need to function.
Right.
But we left something back in the digestive system. What about that piece of fish?
Ah, the protein.
Yeah, we broke that protein down into individual amino acids. Where do they fit into all this? Because if I slip on the ice during that hike and scrape my knee, or, if I'm a seventh grader who is currently growing 2 inches a year, glucose isn't building my new skin and bones.
No, it certainly isn't. Glucose is primarily for that energy-releasing reaction. This brings us to the second vital use of food molecules, which is growth and repair.
Okay.
Your cells use the amino acids from the fish to build entirely new proteins tailored to your body's specific needs.
But how does that actually work mechanically? Do the amino acids just like stack up like bricks?
It's better to think of amino acids as a biological Lego set.
Okay, Legos.
Yeah. There are 20 different common amino acids.
Okay.
When they arrive at the cell, your cellular machinery basically reads the instructions from your DNA, and it begins linking these amino acids together in incredibly complex, specific sequences. We call these long chains polypeptides.
Wait, polypeptide. Let's slow down on that term for a second. Poly means many, so many peptides linked together.
Exactly. A peptide bond is just the chemical link between two amino acids. So a polypeptide is just a long string of them. But a string isn't useful until it takes a physical shape. As the chain grows, the different amino acids attract and repel each other, which causes the entire string to fold and twist into a highly specific three-dimensional structure. And once it folds into its final shape, then it is a functional protein.
And the shape determines its job, right?
Always. Form dictates function in biology. Some of these newly built proteins are structural, like actin.
What does actin do?
It forms the physical fibers of your muscles, or keratin, which builds your hair and nails.
Oh, right, keratin.
Yeah. Then some fold into shapes that act as enzymes, the chemical scissors we talked about earlier, and some fold into shapes that act as mechanical keys, like the hormone insulin.
Oh, insulin. I know insulin is involved in diabetes, but how does it act as a key?
So insulin is a protein built by your pancreas. It travels through the blood and literally fits into a matching receptor, a lock, on the outside of your muscle and fat cells.
A literal lock and key mechanism.
Yes. And when the insulin key turns the lock, it causes the cell membrane to physically open a channel, allowing the glucose from your blood to rush inside.
Wow.
Without that protein key, the glucose is locked out. So whenever you grow or whenever your body has to multiply cells to repair a scrape on your knee, your body is just frantically linking amino acids together and folding them into these essential proteins.
So we essentially have two distinct pathways happening simultaneously inside the cell.
Correct.
We have glucose and oxygen reacting to release energy, and we have amino acids linking together to build new proteins for growth and repair. But they aren't totally separate operations, are they?
Far from it. They're entirely interdependent, and the connection lies in the thermodynamics of building things.
Okay, thermodynamics. Break that down for me.
Well, taking single amino acids and forcing them to link together to build a complex new polypeptide chain is in itself a chemical reaction. But unlike cellular respiration, which releases energy by breaking a tense molecule down, the chemical reaction of building a complex protein requires an input of energy.
Oh, like you can't build the trapper's cabin unless the carpenters actually have the energy to physically swing the hammers.
That is exactly it. Growth and repair can only happen by spending the energy that was just released from cellular respiration.
That makes total sense.
This is exactly why a balanced diet is non-negotiable. The food you eat must provide two absolute necessities. First, it provides the matter the physical amino acid blocks to construct your body. And it provides the molecules, the glucose, that will react with oxygen to release the energy needed to actually power that construction crew.
Man, this is such an elegant system when everything goes right. But, living in an extreme environment means things inevitably go wrong.
They always do.
The Amplify Science materials we're referencing today, they use medical case studies to show what happens when a system is starved of these inputs. So what happens mechanically when the supply chain breaks?
Looking at disruptions is the best way to see how the mechanism actually functions. Let's look at conditions that limit the respiratory or circulatory systems, right? Like asthma or anemia.
Okay, so asthma restricts breathing.
Yes, asthma causes a severe constriction of the physical airways in the lungs. Anemia is a deficiency in red blood cells, meaning the blood loses its cargo capacity. In both of those scenarios, the body is basically failing to deliver enough oxygen to the cells.
Even if you just ate a huge meal and have plenty of glucose.
Exactly. You have the loaded springs, but you don't have the trigger. Without enough oxygen to react with the glucose inside the mitochondria, the atoms cannot rearrange. So the chemical reaction of cellular respiration slows down to a crawl.
Which means very little energy is released.
Exactly, which completely explains the symptoms. A person suffering from severe anemia experiences profound fatigue. They literally do not have the energy released in their cells to walk up a flight of stairs or stay awake because the chemical fires in their mitochondria are basically being smothered by a lack of oxygen.
And diabetes shows us the mechanism failing from the other side.
Right. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas fails to build the insulin protein. So going back to our lock and key mechanism.
The key is missing.
The key is missing. If the insulin key is missing, the cell's channels remain locked. The glucose builds up in the bloodstream, completely unable to cross the cell membrane.
Wow.
So the cell might be swimming in oxygen from the lungs, but without the glucose, the reaction cannot take place. Energy release drops. Extreme fatigue sets in.
So in all these cases, if the inputs for cellular respiration drop, the body doesn't just feel tired. Its physical ability to link amino acids together to repair a wound is heavily compromised too.
Exactly, because the construction workers don't have the energy to swing the hammers.
We've been looking so deep inside the human body, down to the microscopic scale of mitochondria and folded proteins. But the Bioforge philosophy demands that we don't just stay in a sterile lab.
Right, we have to take it outside.
We take the science out into the Alaskan wilderness. So how do these exact same molecular rules of matter and energy govern the entire landscape around us?
To scale this up to the ecosystem level, the Bioforge curriculum anchors Western science alongside traditional ecological knowledge, or tech.
And before we get into the biology of that, let's establish what tech actually is in practice. Because, it isn't just folklore, and it isn't a 2-year academic study conducted by visiting researchers.
No, not at all. Traditional ecological knowledge represents thousands of years of generational, hyperlocal observation and empirical testing by indigenous communities.
It's science.
It is absolute rigorous science. It is a deep understanding of how species interact, migrate, and sustain each other over centuries. And one of the most powerful biological phenomena documented by both tech and Western science is the concept of the salmon forest.
Oh, this is amazing. The idea that the Pacific Ocean is essentially feeding the inland spruce and birch trees.
It sounds made up,
Right.
but consider the life cycle of Pacific salmon. They are born in freshwater streams deep inland, but they migrate out to the open ocean where they spend the vast majority of their adult lives. Out in the marine environment, they feed constantly, gaining about 99% of their total adult body mass.
99%.
Yes. Mechanically, they are eating ocean food webs, building their muscle and fat out of marine-derived isotopes of nitrogen, carbon, and phosphorus.
So they are essentially swimming, living packages of ocean molecules.
Exactly. And when they reach maturity, they navigate hundreds of miles back to their exact natal freshwater streams. They rely on geomagnetic cues and these incredibly sensitive olfactory receptors to literally smell the specific chemical signature of their birth river.
That's just incredible.
They swim upstream, they spawn, and then their life cycle ends. They die. When millions of massive fish die in these rivers, they bring millions of pounds of marine-derived molecules into inland environments that are historically very nutrient-poor.
The forest is starved for building blocks, and a conveyor belt of ocean matter just arrived.
Precisely. A brown bear catches a salmon. Geegles scavenge the remains. Fungi and decomposers in the soil break down the carcasses that wash up on the banks. The giant marine protein molecules of the fish are subjected to the digestive enzymes of the forest consumers.
The chemical scissors again?
Yes. They are snipped into marine amino acids. So when a towering Sitka spruce grows on the bank of an Alaskan river, or a bear packs on 200 pounds of fat to survive the winter, they are literally absorbing those exact marine molecules from the soil and from their diet.
They use them to build their own local proteins.
Right. And the energy released by breaking down the salmon and their mitochondria fuels the physical growth of the entire inland ecosystem. It is the cycling of matter and the flow of energy on a massive landscape scale. The trees are made of the ocean.
And what's truly fascinating is how this molecular reality is practically applied by Alaska Native communities. Like, the curriculum highlights eludic traditional ecological knowledge regarding the timing of hunts.
Yes, this is a perfect example.
Eludic hunters know that if you are going to harvest a bear for meat, you must do it in the late winter or early spring before the annual salmon run begins.
And why is the timing so specific?
Well, because once the salmon arrive and the bears start gorge feeding on them, a molecular shift happens. The bear's digestive systems are snipping millions of marine proteins and reassembling them. Their bodies incorporate so many marine isotopes of carbon and nitrogen into their own muscle cells that the bear meat actually begins to taste intensely of fish.
That is just wild. The actual atomic makeup of the bear shifts from terrestrial to marine.
Yeah, the bears literally become made of the ocean. It is a perfect, observable demonstration that you are what you eat isn't just a metaphor.
It's a measurable atomic reality. The molecules of the ocean become the molecules of the bear, which sustains the community.
So from a microscopic human cell locking a glucose channel to a brown bear navigating a glacial river, the rules of matter and energy just do not change.
They go.
Let's trace the journey one last time for everyone listening. We started with a bite of food. That massive architecture of starch and protein is physically snipped by digestive enzymes into single glucose molecules and amino acids. The circulatory system pumps those molecules, alongside oxygen diffused from the lungs, through a vast network of vessels directly to the doorsteps of your cells.
And then inside the cell, in the folded membranes of the mitochondria, the glucose and oxygen are subjected to the chemical reaction of cellular respiration. The tense chemical bonds are snapped, the atoms rearrange into carbon dioxide and water, and this specific rearrangement releases the energy your body demands to stay alive.
Finally, your cells spend that newly released energy to physically link the amino acid building blocks together, folding them into complex 3D proteins that allow you to grow, heal a wound, or build muscle. It is just this relentless, beautiful cycle of breaking down and building up.
It really is. But as we prepare to leave the Bioforge today, I want to leave you with one final phenomenon that pushes this entire system to its absolute limit.
Okay.
We talked about staying warm in the Alaskan winter. Consider the wood frog.
The wood frog doesn't stay warm at all.
It doesn't. In the depths of sub-zero temperatures, the wood frog survives by allowing itself to completely freeze solid.
Literally a frog ice cube.
Yes. The heart stops beating. Brain activity flatlines. It is, by all outward appearances, a block of ice. Yet, its cells survive the winter.
But how does the freezing water not just shred the cells apart? I mean, when water freezes, it expands into sharp ice crystals.
That's the main danger. Sharp ice crystals forming inside a cell will puncture the membrane and kill it. To survive, the wood frog triggers a massive spike of blood sugar. Its liver churns out huge amounts of glucose, literally packing the cells full of it.
Okay, glucose again.
Right. Because of osmotic pressure, this incredibly high concentration of glucose forces the water out of the cells and into the spaces between them. The glucose acts as a biological antifreeze inside the cell, while the water freezes safely in the extracellular space.
Wow.
The frog just waits in suspended animation.
But the spring thaw is where the real magic happens, right?
Oh, definitely. When the ground thaws, the frog's internal temperature slowly rises. Deep within those protected cells, the chemical reaction of cellular respiration kicks back into high gear. The stockpiled glucose and freshly absorbed oxygen begin to react.
The bonds snap.
The bonds snap. Energy is suddenly released in massive quantities. The heart starts beating again. The brain fires. The frog literally reanimates from the frozen mud, powered entirely by the exact same cellular mechanism we just spent this deep dive unpacking.
That is biology pushed to the absolute edge of science fiction. And, it brings us right back to our original mission. There are 3 lingering mysteries we constantly discuss at the Bioforge Questions that scientists spend their entire careers exploring. So if you are out there listening, step out onto your porch, feel the cold air, and really ponder these 3 things before your next class.
First, think about the glow stick and the coiled spring. How exactly is the process of your cells releasing energy a chemical reaction, and why is it scientifically incorrect to simply say food is energy?
Second, think about the lock and key and the construction workers. If a person has a medical condition that severely limits the amount of oxygen getting to their cells, how exactly would that cascade of failures affect their body's ability to heal a scraped knee?
And finally, scaling up to the wilderness around us. Trace the path of the elements. How do the molecules from an ocean-dwelling salmon eventually become part of the physical, wooden structure of an inland forest?
It's all about tracking the matter and understanding the reactions. The next time you step out into the freezing dark and watch your breath fog against the morning light, don't just shiver. Think about the billions of tiny chemical reactions releasing energy inside you, fighting back the cold. Remember your superpower. You can explain how it all works. Stay curious, keep tracking the molecules, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.